right, let's get the show started. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining. Welcome to In Rhythm Lightning Talks. I'm your host, Parag Katkar. I'm the head of consulting practices at In Rhythm, and we have several awesome lightning talks lined up for you in the upcoming weeks. Our lightning talks are hosted every Thursday at 5:15 p.m. Eastern Time. And each week, one of our practice area consultants shares their knowledge on the evolving technology trends in the industry that will keep you learning and growing in your career. And this week, Ilya Pavlov, who is a mobile automation test engineer with us, will go over cross-platform mobile testing. And I'm really looking forward to get an overview of the mobile testing landscape and learning about the pain points and the popular tools being used in the mobile testing nowadays. So without further ado, let's get started.
All right. Thank you, Parag. Hey, how are you guys? So this presentation will be about the mobile app cross-platform testing. So we'll talk about a bit more about what is it mobile testing? I mean the app testing. It's not about the web. It's more about the apps. So how we test it, what the challenges, what happened. So let's go see what happened. All right. So mobile app testing challenges. So the biggest challenge is fragmentation. So what that literally mean? That means that currently we have two robust platform. That's the Apple like iOS platform, and that's the Android, like huge family of the Android devices. And the fragmentation means that too many devices, too many operation systems, that the quantity of them is just huge to cover all of them. So it's every time some compromise about the boundary and the edge cases. So overview: iPhone and Android devices as Samsung, LG, Motorola, about Android, and a lot of new brands coming up from, for example, from the China, at least 5 or 6 new brands coming up from there, and that's our field, our market to coverage. Also operation systems, existing ones and the new ones. Also between new and the existing ones, we have many beta versions, which allows us to test operation system. But I will talk about it a little bit after. So new OS. What does that mean, like new OS? Every year on the mobile market, companies such as Google and Apple release new operation systems for mobile devices. The scope of using the new OS on devices can be different from the compatibility of the work application with the new OS, same as consistency with the testing tools. So why it happened? Why we can just keep something like robust for like a couple of years? Why is everything something new? So that's the law of the market. The reason for testing in a new OS is to prevent crashes or any other compatibility issues. So that's why we test it. Usually a new OS has an increased number of the features for update features. To reach the goal of making a new OS more functional, stable, and for sure user-friendly, company owners change APIs, and this is the first reason for compatibility issues. Also, UI changes or any other modifications from the previous OS. So when that happens, usually once a year in the mid of September, Google and Apple release new OS, but beta versions are available from July. Also, the beta OS version have different versions. For instance, OS 12, that's for Android OS 12, beta public 1, beta public 2, beta public 3, etc. So how Google and Apple allow testers to install beta versions of the new OS. Google will require Pixel device, but for Apple can be any iPhone device. If we talk about the iOS for iPhones, not for the iPads or for the for the iPads or iPods. All right. Doesn't matter. Also, newer, better version of Android or iOS aren't installed older devices. And for testing purposes, for new OS, should be booked new or at least a couple years older device. If iPhone is running by the previous OS, it should be fine when the newest version is coming. Requirements. What the requirements for testing new OS? Test new beta OS before Google and Apple will release official version. Test new official OS after release. Use new beta or official OS through all type of the testing. That's on a dev services, that's on the beta services, when you do the production, sanity testing. From my experience, when testing new OS version was deprecate or just leave it for late, that became a huge issue when the user can get the app or have really bad experience like the crashes app or whatever. So that's really important thing to catch the beta version and test before official release. Up. Yeah, sorry, it's not the time for the question. Give me 1 second, please. Real sorry. So probably right. So also new devices has also new functions like Samsung Flip and Fold, which is pretty new on the market, and the issues which be related for that functions, I'll say it's still not open. It's like new field to try and dig and investigate. So app structure, what like the difference between the web, if we talk about the UI. So test module, diagram, or roadmap really help us to evaluate all testing and really understand how to test it. For example, simple mobile app can have more than 300 unique screens, features with long inheritance triggers, different flows and states like pre and post, some actions, new experience, classic experience, etc. Different type of users with this sponsors, diff accounts, ability or limitations. Also, triggers for existing features in a mobile app can be in the web service. Let's say the app just don't have the ability to activate any of the features, and it's sort of integration happens because the features, the trigger activated in the web service, and then you can track or like do any other work with this feature in app. So for instance, when user create unique sign up code, it can be on a website and then can be used in the app. Making transaction with the mobile app is not supported, it's just for the tracking. All right. Mobile application tools. So first of all, Android emulator. So tool to communicate with Android apps is Android Studio. It's from the Google, which allow create emulators with different OS and screen sizes. Emulator literally simulate real device behavior with limit CPU and memory. All interactions could be manually via clicking on emulator and also automate on lower level via ADB commands, Android debug bridge. Just a couple examples of the Android debug bridge commands. We can ADB install any of the app on emulator list of evidence. So it show the all list of the all emulators you have right now, you created before, you have right now. Activating any of emulators without the opening Android Studio, and some commands like checking the third-party company you already install on your device, or add or manipulation with the battery. Emulator capabilities. Create diff devices and OS versions. Installing Play Store, which is really big one, because what does for us installing the Play Store on emulator? We can install the app from the Play Store, and we can download the browser and do more advantage stuff, more advantage testing here. Sorry. All right. Manipulator with location, time, battery, network, checking the logs and API calls, creating specific emulator as Samsung or LG by downloading this skin on Samsung or LG web dev sites. So this company allows us to download the skin and really recreate the emulator as like specific device we need. Android device setup. Simply connect device to laptop, go to settings, then find the build number. Better. Find the build number and then tap on it 7 times. It will open developer option on device to manipulate with device same way with the emulator. Android device app distribution. In the Play Store, sign in with the test Google account and activate internal testing option. When app will release in store with flag for internal testing, it will be available for test account. So you can test the downloading app from the Play Store, but it could be the beta version, not the pro. Xcode. So Xcode and simulator. Communicate with iOS apps. Xcode is native Apple tool. It means for using Xcode, Mac is required. Allow you to work with simulators right from the code. Pre-built project and simulator. Also simulator is the different than Android emulator. It's not mimic real device behavior. Simulator use CPU and memory from your machine, from Mac. Same as on Android, Xcode tool has a lower level communication like Xcode Run, theme control. So I just want to highlight it one more time. The emulator from the Google and simulator from the Apple is pretty different. So emulator will mimic real device with the limit CPU as it have on a device, but the simulator will take
Hey, Ilya, I can't hear you. Can anybody else hear? Yeah, audio has gone out. Can you just check the audio setup? Yep, we can hear you now.
You hear me?
Yep, we hear you now.
all right.
If you could rewind for a minute, that would be great.
So you want me to go back?
Yeah, just a little bit. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. So all right, one more time briefly about the Xcode and simulator. Xcode is native tool to work with the simulator. For using that tool, you have to use Mac. And for the highlight, the emulator and simulator, difference between emulator and simulator, does the emulator is a mimic real device with using the limit CPU, and a simulator take all power from your Mac machine, which is make the results from the test from emulator more efficient, seems better as the real device, but it's pretty flaky, and the simulator works more stable than the emulator. But still, we can choose one of the another one when we're working with the native frameworks. With the cross-platform, we can choose whatever we want to build. So usually it's simulator for dev options. So on a lower level, communicate with the simulator, you can through the Xcode Run, so it's Xcode Run, simulator control, privacy booted reset all, for example, it will reset all privacy which you already use. Let's say when you go to the app and you say use it like once or block location, not share the files, that command will just reset all of them. Or let's say if you're working with the native with a status bar, so on the status bar on iPhone you have a time. You can put the anytime. You have a seller bars. You can say like I have just like one bar or the full bar. You can put the data network. It's like 3G, 4G, LTE, any of them, and also you can put like the Wi-Fi mode is failed. That's about the Xcode Run commands on another level. So simulator capabilities. Create any devices with the Apple ecosystem. So that's a bit different from the Google. You can create the iPad, iPhone, Apple TV. You can emulate even for the CarPlay view. That's really huge. That's really huge. Much more stable than emulator, as I talked before. Manipulator with the location, time battery network, checking the logs and API calls. Lightweight. So what that means? To compare with simulator, with the emulator, simulator can be like 1 or 5 GB, and the emulator can be like 8 or 9 GB, which is pretty big difference. Also, Apple provides full list of the devices to cover boundary cases. Currently, from iPhone 8 to iPhone 13 Pro Max. Apple device setup. To activate developer option on Apple device, iPhone, iPad, need once connect device to Mac. After device will have developer options, same as the Xcode. Curious thing, to run network condition test case, need selected any of available conditions on Apple device or Xcode if device is plugged in. And Android device, and for the Android device, it is impossible to test network conditions. So run network condition test cases on Android, you need first activate it on Apple device and then do a network host for Android and connect Android device via Wi-Fi. That's sort of the workaround. Apple device distribution usually to test beta version use the test flight. App enabled to download a beta version for testing. All right. Can I go out? No. All right. So before digging more in the technical part, let me talk about the Charles proxy network tools. Help determine whose problem, let's say, it can help to determine who's the problem, front end or back end. Allows you to check the change network, allows you to change network, check cache, and the tool uploading every time or don't have cache, not uploading. Scenario for boundary, you can just stop the response from the server and change the data in the JSON, and the app will react on it and show you the proper UI. The common test case, if you have like some points and you should get points to I don't know, to celebrate some goal, let's say 100 points, and right now you have only 20. So for test it, you just stop the response from the server, change the value for 100, and boom, you see it on your UI. You don't have like 100 of points, but they just to test the UI for the boundary. All right, mobile automation strategy, frameworks and languages. So for native way, Swift, Objective-C for iOS, Objective-C is deprecated. Kotlin for Android. The pluses of the native way. Robust tests, native behavior cover.
Looks like we lost you. You're on mute right now.
Yeah.
Yep, we can hear you.
No.
We can hear you now.
Yeah, that's really weird.
Yeah, can you share the screen again?
Okay, let me see the screen. Okay,
Yep.
can you see the screen?
We see it now.
All right. Again, frameworks and languages. So native one, Swift, Object-C for iOS, and Kotlin for Android. Pluses: robust tests, native behavior coverage, one language with dev team, work in a framework, group presentation, white box testing, high-level production code. Both dev and QA receive benefits of it. Universal workaround could be any program languages such as Java, Python, JavaScript, one code for both platforms, separate repo as usual, black box testing with possible rebugs. For some cases, dev team, never mind when QA add the test ID or accessibility IDs for UI elements, since that's the more efficient and better way to determine elements during the mobile app testing. All right. So mobile app automation tools. Xcode, Android Studio. I will talk a bit more about the Python, Capitan as the device farm, APM as the tool, like the proxy tool, PyTest as a framework. This is about the other report. So what is it, APM? APM working as the proxy server. Let's say you run your test, like the React Native test on the React Native, not the test. Let's say you run your app like on the React Native framework and the JavaScript. Then to build the app on the both platforms, APM server. No, sorry, I missed the idea. Yeah, I talk about the test. Sorry. So for the test, your script will be connected through the API proxy server to the Xcode to reach the iPhone. And for the emulator, it works without the touching the Android Studio. So the PyTest, the framework on the Python, search for written tests, running tests, output of result, convenient assert mechanism, can run tests right for unit tests, uses fixture, has a large development community, integration with the CI. That's one of the examples of the code. So here you see using the fixture allows you to run tests in a parallel. You just create a dictionary where you say UDID, device, name, system port, and then you just mark all of them. You can see it's one real device and 3 of them it's emulators. So after you just start the test and all of them will be run in a parallel, which give you like big ability to test and to test in a parallel on the different devices and decrease the time for testing. Okay, finding element strategy. Let me see. Adding to existing code base, accessibility ID, test ID, or workaround. So usually that's the best practices. APM really good work with the accessibility IDs, and that's what they suggest to do if the element don't have the accessibility IDs. So to just go in the code and add them. Yeah, let me see. So the other way, when you don't have it ability, you can do like this way, like the get element. So you say try if the result, this is a different result, right? You do verify selector, like the predicate or 2 slashes, XPath is usually how the XPath start from the 2 slashes, or is accessibility. And then you use it here, get element, and if result the predicate, you do one way. If the accessibility, you do the other way. And if it's XPath, which is not recommended by the APM, since when the APM use the XPath, it means it's not just determine the right element. It will download like the whole structure and will go through all structure. It takes a lot more time to reach the element, and it's again not so robust, so it's pretty flaky sometimes. Capitan, one of the device farm solutions. So this is the real devices, but they are remote devices somewhere. So Capitan have somewhere the warehouse where they keep all devices connected, and through their web services you can connect with any of the devices. That's really help when you try to determine specific device. Let's say if the user have complained for some specific device, you don't have it, and you can recreate the issue on the emulator on any other device. The device farm can help. Also, device farm allows you to run all your automation tests there on their side, sort of in the cloud. What about purchase? Probably the apps should have the purchase. So do we really care about purchase in native store? And yes, we do care. So what about money? Show me the purchase order, how we test it. Main type of mobile purchase. Your app is not Amazon, but you can have a subscription when the user should pay to using your app like every month and month and month. Also, your app can be Amazon, buying, selling stocks, as we all do in a Fidelity app right now. Test purchase, how we test it. Usually, it allows us through the sandbox. So sandbox imitate real purchase, not really stable. Let's say if you're using the sandbox through the automation test cases and it's going again and again, sometimes it's fragile, but for manual running that works perfectly. The plus of the sandbox, you get the receipt. So that's the other issue, because for mocking server, not really the same as the purchase, because you have to recreate some type of the receipt and send it to you, send it your back. But it's more stable for automation purposes. Sandbox needs to set up special account for iOS and Android account. Can really buy and get receipt from native store. Build should have a flag turn on with the sandbox configuration. Purchase subscription timing. Yeah. So mock server depends of what do you want to get. UI has been changed. Get API call back and receive. Why not test with real credit card? Possibly one test can become in a 50 tests or like 150 tests. So we cannot test subscription and wait months or 6 months before subscription is expired. So never automate real credit card credentials. CI tools is pretty briefly, pretty shortly. CI tool can be any of the Travis, AWS, GitHub Actions also works pretty nice. So to summarize a bit, for cross-platform testing, you're usually using some universal framework to like the APM, and using one language, let's say Python, to cover both platforms. It's not so robust and convenient as using the native language, but it has like some pluses to depends what the approach you want to reach. And the since it's for test, you're creating the separate repo with your code. CI tool is the perfect solution when it can, first of all, build the app before the testing, and after the app was built, run your automation tests, for example, on a nightly basis or weekly basis. Thank you.